but I was scared to do it. I was afraid. I never run a full-time company. I had 2 kids. I had a mortgage. The bills kept coming in but I'd met with a buddy of mine, or wasn't a friend of mine at the time, but he also owned a company and he was kind of a similar position. And I met with him a number of times, and meeting with him gave me a lot of confidence too. There was different exercises that I did, like getting over fear, doing a business plan. There were a ton of things. Not only it's fine to have confidence, but then you also had to have data and you have to be able to back it up. So
Mhm.
I went through a number of exercises to kind of get me to have the confidence to do it. And that was like a 6, 7, 8 month process. I wrote a book called The Blueprint, how I kind of figured all this stuff out. And in it, I talk about this is exactly what I did. I met with other entrepreneurs. I did a business plan. I did a fear setting exercise. I did all these things. And so that gave me the confidence.
Before we dive back into today's conversation, I want to share something important. This episode includes a paid partnership with BetterHelp, a platform designed to make starting therapy easier. I know from my own journey as a leader and entrepreneur that life can sometimes feel overwhelming. There are seasons where stress, uncertainty, and pressure build up, and you need a safe space to process it all. That's where therapy comes in. Therapy isn't only for people facing clinical challenges. It's a space to reflect, grow, and find better ways to manage stress, relationships, and personal goals. It takes courage to seek help, but it's also one of the smartest investments you can make in your mental and emotional well-being. That's why I'm proud to highlight BetterHelp. With BetterHelp, you simply fill out a short questionnaire and get matched with a credentialed therapist in just a couple of days. If the first match doesn't feel like the right fit, you can easily switch therapists at no extra cost until you find someone who truly connects with you. Inside the platform, you'll also find tools like journaling and group sessions on different topics that can support your growth. And with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 Trustpilot rating, BetterHelp is a platform you can rely on. So if you feel like you'd benefit from talking to a therapist, visit betterhelp.com/KingDames. That's betterhelp.com/KingDames to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Once again, this is a paid partnership with BetterHelp, and I encourage you to take that first step if you've been thinking about it. Sometimes the best investment you can make is in yourself.
Welcome to the King Dems podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
You're live, ladies and gentlemen. You're once again welcome to the King Dames podcast. And today I will be fighting out of Chicago, Illinois. Make welcome Kevin Barnicle.
That's an amazing intro. I feel like this is like the Chicago Bulls intro or something. I love it.
Whoa, Chicago Bulls. That's the basketball team.
Yes.
How
yes.
you guys doing in the NBA this year?
We're not so great. I'm a season ticket holder, a long time. We used to be doing great in the 90s with Michael Jordan, you might be familiar with, but
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
recently not so
The
great.
greatest of
So
all time.
hopefully we'll turn it around. Yeah.
Hopefully. And let me see. I've not really been following the NBA so much lately, but the last time I checked, I know the Bucks. Yeah, Milwaukee Bucks won
Yep.
on the tournament. Yeah, of course that's because there's a Nigerian on that team.
Yeah.
It is. It is Antetokounmpo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow! So you see, your son is a good son. That's the reason why he likes it.
Yeah.
And if your son loves Giannis, he's gonna like me. So
Yeah.
you need to get your son to watch this podcast.
I will, for sure. I always put him on the car and, he could care less about listening, but I'll make him listen to it. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, I've prepared your introduction, so please sit back and let me give you your flowers. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I am joined by a remarkable guest, Kevin Barnicle. Kevin is a tech entrepreneur, author, and founder of Control, a legal technology company he built from scratch without prior experience. Scaled into one of the fastest growing companies in the US and eventually sold, not once, but twice, for millions to Epic, a global tech giant. He's also an Amazon best-selling author of The Blueprint, Starting a Successful Business. and currently exploring passions in publishing and film production. From learning leadership on the job to mastering financial literacy, pivoting into subscription models, and practicing mindset mastery through meditation and therapy. Kevin's story is a living proof that you don't need all the answers to start, but you do need the right mindset to finish strong. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for
Wow.
having me.
So,
Appreciate it.
yeah, you're welcome, man. Of course, you're always welcome. It's interesting, reading through your introduction, right? You actually stand for everything that the Kingdoms podcast that stands for. And when you look at the Kingdoms podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, what do you see as the subtitle of the podcast? It's about growth mindset, leadership, and business insights. And if that were to be a person,
Thank you.
so
Yeah, I read I read the description of the podcast. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm all about as well. So that is it does.
exactly. So tell me, have I done a good job, curating?
Yeah, you did. Phenomenal. Good job, Adinola. The king. The king of intros, Adinola.
you know, uh, it's interesting how life just plays out. When I started, there was some guy in your neck of the woods who was telling me, "Oh, you need to create a niche. You just a generalist, blah blah blah. You cannot make it to the top, without creating a niche." I'm like, I will discover what this is about. Don't worry. And when I really discovered it, right, I knew, when I started, it was about sharing the stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And,
Mhm.
yeah, some people liked it. And, some people were like, nah, I don't like the idea of being painted as an ordinary person. Well, don't worry. We'll spin it around. We will spin it around. And, over time, I got to discover that what really do I care about? What really do I care about? A growth mindset,
Yep.
leadership, and of course, with my business and finance background, business insights. And, I started to, find great minds like yourself from around the world to speak to these topics. And I always say something. I have only two goals to achieve with this podcast. And those two goals are to educate and to motivate. If I do that, my job is done.
Love it.
I don't like to stress myself.
Yeah. No, I love that. No, I love that you said that too, and the kind of the pivot of the podcast, and it's something I
Right.
actually talk about in my book too, is like running a business is hard, right? You're running a business and
Mhm.
you've got to do something that not only provides value for listeners, you're getting good feedback there, but also something that you're passionate about and that you're interested in because it is hard running a business. And you've got to have that base of being passionate about it to want to push through all the obstacles because there are a ton of obstacles. So, the fact that you're doing something, you're getting up and talking to folks about the same topics that you're passionate about, that they're passionate about.
Mhm.
That's how you persevere through the hard times. So good for you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And of course, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, there's something that I always say that an attitude of gratitude is good attitude. Of
Yep.
course, I'm grateful to have you on the podcast today. And I always say that anytime a person shares their time with you, they share their life with you. But of course, the SI unit for measuring life as time. So I'm really grateful for your time. I do not take it for granted at all.
Yeah,
It's
same
really
with you.
great.
Thanks for having me and thank you for
Well, it's good having great minds like you. Think about it, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, these kind of things were not possible. I'm
Yep.
grateful for technology and AI, making these kind of interactions possible, tapping into the brilliant. I see myself as not very young and not very old. I'm just like the sweet spot. 33 years old, millennial. Growing up, I used to read, my dad had, this really massive library, and I was introduced to philosophy and psychology very early in life. Reading the works of, great minds like Aristotle, Socrates, even contemporary philosophers like Bertrand Russell, Winston Churchill. A lot of people don't realize that Winston Churchill actually won a Nobel Prize for literature. But he did. Bertrand Russell as well. I read their books, and I used to wish how I wish I could, have a verbal discussion with, some of these great minds.
Yeah.
And I think I was born at the right time to grow up at the right time to do this.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, because back then you wouldn't have been able to talk to them, right? Or very unlikely. Yeah. Cool.
So I'm privileged, to be able to speak with the great minds, like yourself across the world. But, talking about business, you actually built control without any prior tech startup experience. What gave you that courage to take that leap? It's a quantum leap into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, my whole background was in sales, and there's probably no more entrepreneurship type of job in corporate America than being in sales. There's a lot of things that are on you. You got to wake up and, at least the roles that I was in, go find opportunities. Anyway, so I felt like I learned a lot about business being in sales, from finding customers, keeping customers, building a business, making it profitable, all those type of things. And I was the number one sales guy at this company, and we were selling software to lawyers for them to help them deal with lawsuits and investigations. So there'd be a lawsuit, they had to look through a bunch of emails, and we would sell them the tool, and then they wouldn't have a lawsuit for a couple of months, and all of a sudden they would have a lawsuit, and they would forget how to use the tool. They would call me as the sales guy saying, I need help, I need help. And I wasn't really supposed to be helping them with the tool. That was for another team. But I would kind of give them some advice or get people to help them. And this kept happening over and over and over and over. Anyways, so I knew there was a market opportunity, right? So that's what I would say to any
Mhm.
entrepreneur is like, start with what is the market opportunity and make sure that people actually care about what you're doing. I knew that they cared because they kept coming to me, and I was trying to find companies out there that could help them, and there was really none, or they were doing a bad job. So I was always very entrepreneurial, minded. I always wanted to run my own company, but I was just about your age. I had two young kids. I was married. My wife didn't work. It was a high paying job. But I felt like, man, there's someone has got to do this business, and there's no one better to do it than me. And the confidence I had was, I've always been a kind of a confident person because I know I work hard, I try hard, I care a lot. So but I was scared to do it. I was afraid. I never run a full-time company. I had two kids. I had a mortgage. The bills kept coming in, but I'd met with a buddy of mine, or wasn't a friend of mine at the time, but he also owned a company, and he was kind of a similar position. And I met with him a number of times, and meeting with him gave me a lot of confidence too. There was different exercises that I did, like getting over fear, doing a business plan. There were a ton of things. Not only it's fine to have confidence, but then you also had to have data, and you have to be able to back it up. So
Mhm.
I went through a number of exercises to kind of get me to have the confidence to do it. And that was like a 6, 7, 8 month process. I wrote a book called The Blueprint, how I kind of figured all this stuff out. And in it, I talk about this is exactly what I did. I met with other entrepreneurs. I did a business plan. I did a fear setting exercise. I did all these things. And so that gave me the confidence. I was still afraid to do it, but I did it, and the courage. And then the minute I did it, I knew it was the right decision.
Wow, the right decision. Talking about you having that relationship with your friend, it reminds me of what the Bible says: "As iron sharpened iron, so shall thy sharpen the countenance of thy brethren." You know, it's very important to, what I say, associate and fraternize with people of like minds and like goals, like directions in life. And of course, to our audience, I hope you're picking up on this, right? So I remember when I was going to start the podcast, there are people who did not understand the dream and, you know, what they wanted
There's
to
always
do.
going to be plenty
Yeah.
of those. Yeah, there'll
Yeah.
always be
Just
plenty of.
discourage me because, like, oh, you're a finance guy. What's a finance guy looking for in the world of media?
Yep.
But let's have a conversation today with global top 2.5% today. And, been
Yeah, it's
approached
awesome.
by,
Congrats.
different
Yeah, it's
brands,
great.
been
No, there's always
privileged to work
people.
with.
There's there's always doubters. There's always haters.
Mhm.
I don't know how many people told me I was crazy. They're like, "You're making all this money. You've got a pretty easy job. What do you Don't start your own company." I thought about starting my own company. I never did. This is things that they were saying to me. I don't So many people. And I was like, they don't know. they don't know what's going on in my brain. They don't know what I'm capable of. I'm not going to listen to
Uh-huh.
them. And it's
Mhm.
also like one of the better pieces of advice that I think I've just cultivated in my own mind is don't ever take the advice of someone who hasn't done what you're doing. Right. I
Absolutely.
guarantee you those people that are at
Absolutely.
a podcast, right? None of those people at a podcast, like, what? Why would I care
Mhm.
about your opinion?
Yeah, and yeah, you remind me of what I like to say. I like to tell people that the best part of your opinion is the fact that your opinion does not count. That is the best part of
Yeah,
your opinion,
I like that. No, that's good.
right? It's crazy. You know what? You just reminded me of something. I saw something on LinkedIn yesterday, and it sort of baffled me. I think this person is an ex C-suite executive, and they must probably be in their 50s or 60s. And
Yep.
this guy dropped a post that he's been job hunting for the past 9 months, and that oh he's done really really high profile jobs, high profile organizations, international organizations, being the employed CEO and
Sure.
for certain organizations, and he's unhappy. He's unable to get a job for the past 9 months. And in my head, I'm
Yep.
like, what happened to entrepreneurship? Why are certain people so conditioned in their minds that you have to be on the wagon that was created by another person?
Right.
Why
Yeah.
can't you create something for yourself with so much experience and expertise?
Yeah. I don't know. I think probably a lot of it is how you're raised, and I mean, education's a big part of it. I think most people are told, get a good education, get a good job, go into management, try to move up the corporate ladder. And I had no interest in doing any of that. Like I saw those people that were 50 and 60 and had worked their asses off for these companies. And then all of a sudden they're gone and they can't
Mhm,
get another job, right? Or whatever.
mhm,
And I remember thinking, I do not want to be that person. I don't want to be that person who's 55, 60, maybe 10 years away from retirement, can't get another job or whatever. I had no interest in doing that. And then it was a matter of, okay, how do I make it happen? Um, and so when I saw that market opportunity, I took it. But I think, you're either working on your dream or you're working to help someone else achieve their dream, right?
exactly.
So for me, I was like, I know how to work. I know how talented I was and am, and the things that I'm good at. I'm not great at everything, but some things I'm very good at. And I was like, I rather, see the rewards of that. I know me and you were talking about reaping, you reap what you sow. I'd
Mhm,
rather reap those rewards that I've sowed and not someone else reap those rewards. And there's a trade off to that, of course. It's hard. There's a lot of challenges of running a company, but it's absolutely worth it. And it really comes down to knowing yourself and your own personality, right? To some
mhm,
people, they want a place to be go somewhere and be told what to do every day. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not me. It's not you. But there are people like that. I think they're crazy personally, but hey, to each their own. And I don't know how they were raised. I don't know anything about them. And that's also like why I don't take people's opinions like you were talking about. Like they don't know me. I don't know them. They don't know me. You go do you. I'm not going to worry about you. But yeah, I think it's a lot of it's conditioning, a lot of it's people being told that's the safe route and they believe it. And for me, it just I don't know, I've always been kind of rebellious and contrarian, but I had no interest in doing that.
The interesting part is that they also think you're crazy. So in the end, I
Yeah,
don't
and that's
know
all right.
who
Maybe they're
exactly
right.
is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all crazy. Everyone's crazy. We're just, we're human beings. We're just totally flawed, running around. We're all trying to figure it out. And you're on this, planet for such a short period of time. It's like, why not go after your dreams? Why not see what you're capable of? It's like I talk about in my book. There's the whole Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? And the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. Like it's innate us to want to know what we can actually achieve. And if you're at a
Mhm.
corporate America, you don't know that. You're not going to get every opportunity you want to be. There's only going to be one person who's going to be the CEO, who's going to be at the top of that pyramid. And, you a lot of times you don't know what you're capable of. When
Exactly.
you're an entrepreneur, you find out what you're capable of real quick.
I'm telling you
Whether you like it
real
or not.
quick.
said, like all of a sudden, you started a podcast 2 years ago, and now you're in the top 3%, right? So you're finding out. You're finding out what
Yeah,
you're capable.
you find it out like, and I like that song. If you are what you say you are,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like I
yeah,
love that song.
yeah.
Like if you are what you say you are,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Entrepreneurship is, "Oh, yeah? Prove it."
yeah,
That's the
prove it.
biggest, "Oh, yeah, prove it" job there is, because the market the market speaks, man, the
Hmm.
market always wins.
Yeah, and of course, speaking to what you say about the market speaks, I when I advise people, especially upcoming entrepreneurs like myself, I tell them you don't sell what you want to sell, you sell what the market wants to buy. It's simple. The
100%.
market forces a demand and supply, right?
I've been in sales my whole career. I never sold anyone anything. I always
Mhm,
understood what they were trying to accomplish and then figure out whatever I could do to help them, whatever products I had, whatever services I had. But you're not gonna, like, if someone doesn't want, a Droid phone over an iPhone, you're not gonna convince them, or it's very
mhm,
unlikely, or it's not worth the effort. It's better to understand that person, their situation, and then try to position whatever you have to help them. That's all sales is. And same with the market, right? You're either increasing pleasure or you're decreasing pain. That's what every product is. It really is. It's that simple. So go find people's pains and decrease them, and problems, and solve them, and go find what they like doing and enhance that experience, and you'll sell.
yeah, exactly. You need to speak to people's pain points, right? And something I learned in economics, from my first degree, they said money is a store of value. And
Yep,
if money is a store of value, it means people will give it to people who offer them perceived value.
yep,
Yeah, just
yeah,
as simple as that. So as long as you master the art of creating value, you will definitely get money. And people
absolutely,
don't like to be sold to. People like to buy to meet their needs or perceived
100%.
wants, right? So
Yep.
if you are telling somebody what they don't want or they don't need, they just look at you like, why are you
Yeah,
pushing it? You're pushing your luck.
yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's it. That's all it really is, yeah.
But you actually built control like without the whole experience in tech, right? And leadership actually, comes, or would I say, improves over time with experience, right? And of
Mhm.
course, you never had managed anyone before running that company. So, what were like some of the hardest leadership
Yeah,
experiences
I
or
think
lessons you learned?
yeah,
What was
I
that
was always
trial and error?
yeah, yeah, a lot of trial and error for sure. I mean, a lot of it in the beginning was, I'd never managed anyone. We grew really fast. I had 10 employees by the end of year 1, and I don't know, because I didn't have a lot of experience managing people, I just always thought people were like me, and I worked a lot. I was a hard
Fallacy.
yeah, I was a hard worker. I took things very serious. I had attention to detail, and I remember a couple people that came in early, and they were not like that, and I would bark at them. I'd be like, "What are you doing? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. You gotta do this, that, and whatever," and I'm like, and then I remember meeting with my mentor, and I was like, I feel like I don't even want to hire people because I can just do it better. And he was like, "Of course you can do it better, and you're going to care more about your business, but you have to figure out the stuff that you're not any good at, and then outsource it to those folks, and then
Exactly.
let them be. Let them figure out they're not going to be like you, and that's okay because there's probably a lot of things that you're not good at either." So, I think the biggest thing was trying to hire for need, and realize that I had to give them autonomy. And that's what I wanted too, right? The best bosses I ever had were kind of let me do my own thing. But I think it was the error in the beginning was trying to fit them to do things like I did things versus how they did things. And then how I got better at it was just, A, finding really good talent that helps, because then I don't have to worry about telling them what to do because they already know what to do. So I always kind of found A plus talent and paid them well versus trying to coach up people. I always found people with experience. That was something that worked for me. And, just really trying to see it from their perspective, not being so reactive, trying to listen more instead of talking. That was a lot of the things that I learned with folks. and giving them space and, giving them opportunity. So that those are the big things, is just, not forcing them to do things the way I wanted them done. Let them figure it out on their own, but measure the results more than the process.
I love the way you talk about hiring A plus talent, but there's something that I like to say, and I think I've said this on the podcast before. It's good to have talent, right? But hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard, right?
100%.
And I have a problem with, I say, coping with or trying to teach people the right attitude. I don't know. I'm a young entrepreneur myself, right? But I think it's quite difficult or maybe almost impossible teaching people the right attitude, right? Because
Yep.
how do you teach a person to be hungry? How do you teach a person to be determined? How do you teach a person to be ambitious? How do you teach a person to go above and beyond?
Right.
You can give a person a task, right? Give them a deadline, and they might come to you and just do just enough, right? How do you
Yep.
teach them the fact that you need to consciously, actively find ways to become more efficient at whatever it is that you do? How do you teach them that you have to be innovative, right?
Yep.
And keep up with uh current trends, right? And of course, in the tech industry, you can attest to this. Sometimes you're working on a particular research and another company has done that research and has put that product in the market. And whatever you're working on becomes sort of obsolete, and you need to probably have an add-on to that service or that product
Yep.
line in order to make it relevant, right? How do you teach people attitude? For me,
Yeah.
I think I struggle with that, but I'd like to
Yeah,
have
I don't know
your
I don't know that you do. I mean, I think you struggle with it because I don't know that you do. I think it's more about finding people that already have it, and that is in your
Mhm,
interview process. I
mhm.
mean, we used to have a saying that if we have to manage you, we're gonna manage you out of the organization. Meaning, you wanna find leaders, right? You wanna find people with that hunger, you wanna find people with that determination and that grit, and I don't know that it is something that you can teach them. They can observe someone doing it, but when you're in a company, especially like ours, is a, fast-growing tech company, we didn't have a lot of time to be teaching people. We needed people
Exactly.
that already knew and bring them in and then give them opportunity. But I'll tell you one thing that just made me think of it is, the company that I was from, EMC, and I know a lot of companies in the tech space do this, is they would look, and one of your other guests talked about this, the Flickr guy or Clicker, sorry, I can't remember the name of his company.
Sean Tapper, a Teaker.
Yeah. Yeah, so he talked about this, but it's about athletes, finding athletes, and a lot
Yeah,
of
finding
athletes have a
athletes.
lot of those attributes already. So, like, one
Mhm.
of my first questions when I was being recruited to go work for this company called EMC, they were like, "What high school sports did you play?" I was like, I was not expecting that, I was like, "Huh?" And, I did play high school sports, so I talked about that, but it's because those people that played those sports, they usually are hungry, they are competitive, they have a lot of that attitude, properties that you want, right? And those things do get instilled as a kid through sports, so it is kind of a little bit of a hack to say, do you have some of these things? Not everyone probably that played sports has those things, but I talk about it in my book. I would ask, "How competitive are you?" That was one of my favorite questions, and if they would smile before they even said anything, I knew I was gonna hire them because they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're not that." So that was
So are you gonna hire me now because I was smiling when you were saying
Yeah,
that?
exactly. But, like, some people, like, get scared. They're like, "Oh, shit, how do I" sorry, for my language, but, "Oh, no, how do I answer this?" Versus if they are competitive, they're like, "Alright, let's go," and most people are competitive, obviously, at least anyone who's achieved anything in their life, but that was a good hack to finding those that already, like, have that attitude versus, like you said, teaching them. I don't know how you teach them. I mean, I would tell them to go read a bunch of books that helped me along my way. And, there's a bunch of podcasts, other things you can do, but you've got to, I'm not going to hire someone that I have to teach attitude. They better have it.
And, the sad part is this, right? Before I get to the sad part, I've tried that approach, of giving them certain books, certain materials. Okay, go read this, go read that. They don't end up reading anything.
Right. Yeah. No. No, totally.
It's like you're
Yeah.
wasting your time.
Yeah, no, unless no, it's kind of funny because I actually force my new employees to read one book. There was one book I forced them to read, and I just did it with my daughter too. And she was like, I don't, she's going to college. She didn't really want to read this book. I'm like, well, if you don't read it, I'm not paying for tuition, so you better read the damn book. But it is, it's whatever. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's my favorite book, and that is
Whoa,
it's a
that
great.
that that was the first book I bought with my own money. That was Dale
Really?
Carnegie. Dale Carnegie, How to Win
Oh,
Friends
yeah,
and
Dale
Influence
Carnegie.
People.
That's my favorite book of
Yeah,
all
and
time.
the Art of Public Speaking. Yeah, those were
Yeah, I have
the
both of
first two
those.
books.
I actually have, like, I can pull it up at some point, it's over there, but I've got, like, a 4th edition copy of that book, like, from the 50s, like,
Wow,
oh, just sitting on my desk right
wow.
over there, but I love that book, but anyways, that is when you own your own company, you can force them to do some things, and that was the one book I would and this was for younger employees. This wasn't like, if someone's coming in later in their career, I'm not forcing anyone. But I had a couple we did decide at some point to hire some kind of junior engineers and they didn't have the best people skills, I could just tell. And I'm like, you got to read this book. So, and they all, I don't know if they were BSing me, but they all seemed to say like, hey, thank you for making that. That actually was helpful. I get it, da da da. So, but anyways, yeah. So you're right. A lot of times they won't read it.
And it's not like, oh, you're wasting your time. So I'll figure something out. I'll figure something out. But the sad part is, when you have those ones, with the right attitude and with the right talent, the turnover is very high. The leave for better opportunities very
You
fast.
think?
So how do you deal with
Well,
that?
we actually did a pretty good job of keeping on our talent. I mean, an easy way to do is pay them more than the market's paying. That's one of the things that I did. I was like, I would rather hire less people and pay them more than the opposite. So, a lot of people when they're running business, they want to say, "Oh, I have this many hundreds of employees." Like, I didn't care. I'm like, I want to keep it as small as possible but I want really, really good people. So I would poach people from like sometimes our customers and they'd be making, I'll just, say some rough numbers, making $100,000 to some corporate job. I'd say, I'm going to pay you 130. And, you know, they would come in and they would get other benefits. And I would like, hey, I don't care. I'll pay above market rate because we were moving fast. We needed experts. I knew when I found the right people, I was willing to pay them so that helps. We didn't lose a lot of people. We would then give them structures and incentives that were aligned with the company goals for them to make more money too, no matter what their role was. But yeah, you're always going to have people poaching talent. But if you give them upside, like, stock options, things of that nature, when you're an entrepreneur, you can give them, there's creative things you can do being the boss and being an entrepreneur to kind of keep people around.
Yeah, I feel like that equity stake actually has a big way of motivating people.
Yeah, the golden handcuffs.
Correct. The gold handcuffs. Yeah, that's a trick. That's a very, very fantastic trick around keeping these
Yeah.
people. So but then you had zero accounting background and you educated yourself and worked with
Yep.
accountants. So what's the most important financial principle you think every founder should master very early?
Yeah, I that was the thing I was most intimidated by when I started my company is because, I did like my family personal accounting and I talk about this in my book too, but it's like I was like, man, I don't know anything about accountants. Accounting, I've never, done a general ledger or anything. So I read a ton of books. All of them are kind of boring, but like accounting 101 books. And then, I talk about it. I really recommend people outsource that function. I know that's something that you do, right? You're a fractional CFO, but for real.
Bring them my way. My
Yeah,
company would
yeah.
do
I was
that.
just saying, well, that's actually my advice in the book is get a fractional CFO. And if you don't know it, like I didn't know it,
Fantastic.
I didn't care to know it. I wanted to know it to be informed and to have good dialogue, but like I didn't want to be an accountant at all. And it was like one of my weaknesses. And So I hired a fractional CFO, outsourced, small consulting company. The guy was amazing. He taught me a ton. And then I would say, you got to understand the P&Ls, the biggest thing, in my opinion, for a young entrepreneur, and keep costs down. And, it's not necessarily an accounting principle, but I would just keep costs down so low. I didn't take a salary myself. I didn't bring on a full-time kind of W-2 employee until like 8 months in. I was just paying people's contractors. I waited too long to hire people, but it helped me sleep at night. And then at the end, especially if you're looking to sell your company, you really got to understand gap principles. That was not
Yes.
something I understood. I learned real quick. I went through the quality of earnings thing with selling the company, and it's a bunch of really smart accountants in a room. And I'm like, I'm just going to shut up and let my fractional CFO do his work. But, I would say this with accounting for those of you out there listening that are like me and didn't have a lot of accounting experience. It's scary. Like accounting and law, those are two of the scarier things with selling or with running a company. Outsource them, and you'll figure it out. It's not that complicated. It's like a different language. You got to learn how it works. But really, at the end of the day, a business really is just money coming in and money going out. So it's not that more complicated. And so just making sure that you can control what you can control in the beginning, that's money going out. You can control how much money is going out in the organization. You can't always control how much is coming in. So that's what I would say from accounting principles perspective.
Mm, what you just said, I'm going to summarize it. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and
Yep.
cash is king. If you wish cash
Yep.
is reality, profit says that you're winning in the game of business,
That's
but
right.
cash flows determines how long you can stay in the business.
That's right.
So make with that information whatever you wish to make with it.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you're actually successfully transitioned, from project-based services to subscription model. I love subscription model revenue a lot. So and of course you skyrocketed the growth. So can you walk us through how that
sure.
decision came about and what was the impact?
Yeah. I think it was like year 4 or 5. I was, we had gotten a lot of interest from companies investing in us and even potentially purchasing the company. And I, was trying to understand that whole game, right? Like if you sell the company, and I really learned a lot about, so anyway, long story short, I made the Inc. 5000. My company makes Inc. 5000. I talked to a couple private equity companies and venture capitalists, and they all were really honing in on the amount of recurring revenue that we had. And I had a decent sense of it, but a lot of our stuff was projects. So, like an example, a customer has a new software system that in their environment they want us to configure it. We'd say, hey, it's $15,000. We go in there, we get it done in a week, and then we're gone, and then they pay us. And then maybe they'll call us later on if they have problems, or we would try to upsell them other stuff. But that's it, right? It's one and done. Versus when I learned more about the recurring revenue subscription model, I was like, not only does it make it you more valuable from a, selling the company, but it makes you a lot more valuable to the customer if you've got something that you can annually provide to them. So I just sat down and thought through, okay, how can I actually turn these projects and these other things that we were doing into, annual contracts? So I kind of made it a no brainer in the beginning and just said, look, that same customer, right? $15,000. I'd say, look, we're going to give you a managed service for the same price, $15,000. We're going to come in, we're going to do the install. And then for the next 10 months, you're going to have support from us. And we're going to get in the environment. We're going to proactively take care of the software. And, they'd be like, what's the catch? Do I got to sign up for multiple years? I'm like, nope, there's no catch. I'm that confident that you want to re-up on the service in a year from now, and it's the same price. You get, option A is you get work for us for 2 weeks and we're gone. Option B is you get to work for us for the whole year. And, we were taking some risks doing that. And like me and you talked about before we jump on, sometimes you got to do stuff for free. And I would say like 95% of the customers would sign up for it. They're like, yeah, that sounds like a no brainer. And then 75% of those customers in year 2 would re up because we would go above and beyond for these customers. We would take care of stuff. We got to know them. We're in their environment doing stuff. And they were like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this crap anymore. I'll let you guys deal with it. And then it was just like stacking those customers up. And then instead of, January 1, we're going, what the hell are we going to sell this year? Now we're like, hey, we already got 20 of those customers. All we got to do is keep them and then add them. And we can still do those projects if we want to. We could do other things. So, for me, it was like, this is a no brainer. Why did I not do this sooner? And it all started with, I read a book called Built to Sell by John Warlow, and he talked a lot about it in that. And that was more about, hey, this is how you make your company more valuable. But I was like, man, this is making the company easier to run. So, anyways, that's why we did it, and it worked. By the time we sold the company about 2 years later, for the first time, about 75% of our revenue was recurring versus 40% 2 years prior. So, which gave us a great multiple on the actual sale.
It's beautiful when you have that recurrent revenue, especially by way of a subscription model. But in terms of scaling up, right, it makes it easier as well,
Yep.
right? Because you have that multiplier effect, of course, having multiple customers that you can service at the same time, right? And of course, you're keeping cost as low as possible. But another strategy that a lot of consulting or service professional services companies or firms use is upselling. So, were you guys able to upsell any of your, would I say, product?
Yeah. Other service. Yeah, because we have software products too. Yeah. I mean, the beauty of it is when you have a recurring model, and this was more of a managed service, right? This was a service. We actually had a software product that we did as well. So we would use that managed service. That's usually how we would get introduced. Was through this managed service, and it was around technologies like Microsoft and other companies. And we would get in there, and they're thinking they're just going to sign up for a project with us. They actually sign up for a managed service, and then my team would get to know them, and in this space we're taking care of a software that is associated with, like, legal services and these lawsuits. So when then 3 months later a big lawsuit hits, we're already managing the software for them. They have a relationship with my engineer, and they would say, oh man, I got to be all weekend doing these searches, running this for the lawyers. He would say, we do that as well. And they'd say, oh, really? So then that was another service line that we had, that was, they could work with our team, and we had lawyers, and they could actually go in and do the searches. And then we would understand about the type of litigation they would have and the industry that they were in. And then we had our own software that we built that helped them manage their data proactively. So the next time that this happens, we can help them as well. So it all kind of started with that one. And then there was all these add-on services that we could do. And some of them were projects, some of them were software subscriptions, with the software subscriptions, recurring revenue as well. And it just built, so now we've got, you know, 40, 50 of these customers, 50 to 100. And that's why our revenue kept going up. And then we could manage our expenses a lot easier because we knew, okay, going into the year, we're going to have $5 million bucks of this recurring revenue. Okay. We had really good metrics on how much work we were actually doing for those customers, the profitability. And we're like, okay, we don't even need to hire that many more people. We can just tweak some of our, tweaks on how we're doing things. And then profitability starts going up. And you're like, that's when things get exciting. You're like, okay, now the flywheel's spinning.
Yeah, the flywheel. It's very important to be able to like recognize the different elements or the components of the flywheel, and of course activate that engine at the middle. And of course, it's just like an automated system. I love the
Yep.
SaaS system, right? The SaaS business model. You know, pretty much like the flywheel. But one thing that comes with that fast growth is possible burnout, right?
Yep.
So it can be quite exhausting. So how did methods like meditation, therapy help you avoid burnout? And like what's your advice, to young founders like myself, about
Yeah.
mental
Yeah.
resilience and
I'm
coping with
quite
that exhaustion?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite passionate about this particular subject. It was like year 2 or year 3 of the company, and everything was going well, right? We're having a lot of success, but I'm working a lot. I typically am working like 14-hour days, and I'm not sleeping a ton because I got to stay up late and I got to get up early. And, things are going, I'm hiring all these people. Like we're having a lot of success, but I felt like really low energy. I wouldn't say depressed was the right word, but just kind of blah. And I'm like, man, I gotta do something. Like I'm just constantly kind of running out of energy. And I was still pretty young and eating well for the most part and exercising. And it was like year 3 of the company. I met with my same mentor I kind of talked about. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Like this is a lot. He's like, you don't want to quit. You're tired and you need a break. And he's like, "You need to go on vacation." And every vacation I'd taken a couple years prior, I was working on the vacation. My kids were on vacation. My wife's on vacation, but I'm working. So I was like, I don't care. I'll burn the house down. I'm going on vacation. I'm shutting off my email. I'm shutting off everything. And I'd heard a lot of entrepreneurs talk about meditation and specifically transcendental meditation. And I tried it, like the whole lie down on the floor thing, and I'm like, this is not working for me. And I was like, my brain's racing, and I'm not calm at all when I'm meditating and these things. And I read something that you gotta give it a week. You've got to do it every single day for a week, right? For like 10 minutes, whatever. So I'm going on vacation. I'm like, here's a perfect opportunity. I would lie down. I would like listen to guided meditation, and it still wasn't great. It was like, you're walking in a forest. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. But I did feel after day 3, like I'm becoming a little bit more relaxed and
Mm-hmm.
focused. And then by the end of that vacation full week of it, I'm like, God, I feel good. I feel energized. Obviously being on vacation was part of it too. And being around my family, but I felt really, really good. And I was like, all right, I kept doing that, but then I wanted to take it to the next level. So I learned transcendental meditation. I've been doing it for 10 years now, every day. First thing I do, I wake up 20 minutes. I'll probably do it right after this podcast around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I do it. And it's a mantra based, meditation. And more than anything, it's not like a lot of people think of meditation. They think, oh, I'm going to be like my brain's going to be empty and I'm like levitating and like no, that's not what it for me, it was getting me in touch with what was going on with myself, right? So like you're dealing with a lot when you're running a business. And for me, I'm dealing with a
Absolutely.
hundred a hundred different things. So sometimes I'd be bothered and I would close my mind and I would meditate and you real quickly get in touch with yourself, right? You're like, my brain would be going, oh, I can't believe that employee did this. What a jerk, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, okay, this is what's bothering me. And now I need to go address it. So that's what really helped with me. And then it would just give me like energy. Like I'd be tired by around 3 o'clock. I would meditate. It was like the equivalent of taking a nap. You take a good nap, you feel good, you feel refreshed. And then I'm like, oh, I feel good now. And now I can be a better husband when I go home. I've got a couple more hours in me with my team. And then I can have the energy for later on at night. But meditation is a huge thing. Sleeping, I learned to probably, year 4, I really need to start focusing on my sleep. That I did a much better
Very
on.
important.
Yeah. But burnout, vacation, scheduling time with friends and family, like it's easy to nonstop work. And I started scheduling blocks of time, like 3 hours every night with my family where I'm not working. I might be thinking of work every once in a while, but like you need to do those things. And then mental therapists, I went and started seeing a mental therapist to deal with the stresses of it. And I still,
Mental therapist. I'm really
yeah,
happy you're talking about these. And of
yeah.
course, I guess this is the right time right now, right? Your episode, you are a fantastic guest. And of course, your episode is the episode where we break the good news. We are now partnering with the world's number one uh, therapy brand, and that is BetterHelp. So, what a great time
That's
to,
awesome, man.
to have BetterHelp
Congratulations.
partner with us. So, BetterHelp is now officially a sponsor of the King Dave's podcast, and of course, what a way to segue into you talking about mental therapy.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say, and the nice thing about Better Health, as you know, is it's an online mental health program. People traveling, et cetera. I personally have been seeing, a therapist since before the online thing even existed, but it's great, right? And you know, it, I think sometimes entrepreneurs probably put too much on their spouse to kind of be like their therapist. Like they
The
come home and,
therapist,
you know,
untrained therapists, you know.
right, and, they might be having a bad day, they might be dealing with, like, my situation, my wife's dealing with little kids, and it was nice to be able just to go talk to someone that doesn't know me, that's not judging me, that is equipped to be able to deal with some of these things, and I joke, like, I used to just go and complain, like, sometimes I didn't really wanna talk about anything, I just would go and complain about my team, and then I would leave, and I'm like, "I feel better, great, it's out of my system." So, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of mental therapy, congrats on
Thank you very much,
partnership
brother.
with BetterHelp, and that'd be awesome for your team.
Thank you very much, brother. And of course, guys, if you're listening to us, therapy is something that is very, very resourceful, very helpful for you. We're grateful to have BetterHelp as a sponsor of the King Games podcast. And if you use the code, if you link that is betterhelp.com/kingdames, you will actually get a 10% discount on your first month of therapy. Therapy is very helpful. I cannot um, underemphasize the importance of the help that therapy actually does due to one's mental health. I've undergone therapy myself. I have used BetterHelp myself, and of course it is actually very helpful. I don't know what to say, but really, therapy. A lot of people, especially where I come from, find it, what I say, difficult to have these difficult conversations about mental
Right.
health. But if you can see a doctor, right, for a physical health, why can't you see a trained practitioner for
Yeah.
your mental health? And the good thing about BetterHelp is the fact that it's online. You don't have to see the therapist face to face,
Yeah, and
and of
it's
course,
I would look at it as
confidentiality.
I would look at it as coaching too, right? It's not my experience with therapy, being an entrepreneur is not going and talking about all my problems of childhood, right? Or anything like that people see in movies. It was, okay, here's what I'm dealing with. How can I balance work life? How can I, you know, be a better communicator? Like there's all these different tools. And if you're listening to this podcast, reading books, you're already seeking that information. This is someone that you can have a personalized one-on-one mentorship and coach with you. And, the nice thing about things like these online tools is you could try a couple different ones, right? You might not jive with the first person you meet,
Hmm.
which is harder to do in
Yeah.
person, right? To meet all these people and figure all that out. It's
Hmm.
hard, but you can
From the
online.
comfort of your phone, you just switch the therapist.
Right,
Simple.
yeah, and, but yeah, and I did a lot of online therapy during COVID because I had to, and it's great, it's anyways, but yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much, brother. So, you know, talking about exit strategies. By the way, I do have a particular episode on exit strategies, and of course,
No, no.
the guy I spoke with talked about that book to sell.
Yep.
So, you sold your company twice. What are the top two or three things entrepreneurs should prepare for if they hope to sell their businesses one day?
Yeah, I mean, you better be prepared to know your numbers really, really well. You should be prepared to talk about recurring revenue, and predictable revenue, right? That's what they care about. And I would say to understand if you go through a process like I did, and I met with about 10 companies. It's it's an interesting process. It's challenging. It's mentally challenging to go through it. For me, I was kind of explaining like your dream is right here, right? Like a lot of selling a company for a lot of people, it's a dream because financial independence, whatever it is, seeing what the company can go. And it's a roller coaster. And, like my process was about 100 days, 120 days. And man, it's like if anyone's ever sold a house and you get a home inspection and it's very stressful, it's like doing that every day for 120 days. And they're going to, it's it's a process, right? So having a mental therapist, I don't know how I would have gotten selling through my company without having my therapist. It was very, very stressful, mentally taxing, exciting as well, and worth it, by the way. But just know that, that actual process is pretty brutal.
Well, you know, tough times don't last, but tough people do. And the stuff that I also like to say that God reserves his toughest battles for his toughest soldiers. So
Yeah, there you go.
you're a tough one, But your book, let's talk about your book, The Blueprint. It outlines 7 phases, to starting a successful business. So which of these phases do most entrepreneurs underestimate?
The first one, which is fear, how to get over the fear of actually starting a company. I think that was, looking back at my journey, I spent a good 8 months, kind of really contemplating starting the business. And like I said, in the beginning, I was leaving a high paying job. So that actually made it harder in some regards. But that process, I look back and like, man, did expend a lot of energy on that. And it's obviously the most important thing because you got to make that first step. You got to take that leap off the cliff, so to speak. And
A
then
journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step.
that's right. It's that first step, right? And overcoming that fear. And that's I start off my book talking about it, the exercises that I did to get over the fear. That's the number one thing because once you do that, I found the rest of it actually easier than I expected it to be. I found it easy to be successful running the business and making profit. And there's a lot of challenges, but man, that first step was hard. And so that's why a lot of the reasons why I wrote the book is I know how I felt about it at the time. I know the things that I did to overcome the fear. And then without taking that first step, my life is like I can't even believe it. It's my life now. I've been retired since I'm 45. I get to do whatever I want on a daily basis. None of that happens without that first step. So that's the biggest thing. I think people, if they're very serious about making it and they're leaving a kind of a situation like I was, it's nerve wracking. So how do you get over that? That's the thing people under.
That I think you need some therapy to get over that. uh,
Yeah.
let's talk about failure and resilience. You're to share a moment where you thought things might collapse, and of course, maybe heaven might fall. Though heaven never falls, right?
Yeah.
And how did you turn that obstacle into an opportunity?
Sure. Yeah. In 2015, we had been kind of running for about 3 4 years and things were really good and most of our business model was building services and products around large technology companies and kind of filling in gaps, and we had two major partners and both of them got massively disrupted in the same year, and that massively disrupted us. So we had built our kind of whole company around these two technologies. The one company was like selling off and going to sell off this technology. They didn't even care about it anymore. The other one was kind of like they were getting acquired as well. And it was just they were very disrupted, which made us very disrupted. And I kind of was like, oh, and our sales started going down because customers weren't investing in these technologies. They weren't sure. And I was like, we have got to find another partner. We've got to find a different alley because we probably could have milked those customers and done okay, but I was like, we have got to find an opportunity here. And Microsoft had kind of just got into our space, and I tried to like reach out and find out what they were doing, but it was very kind of closed off group. And I just, through persistence and resilience, I was like, Microsoft is going to change this industry. And I just nonstop all day for months figured out any angle I could to try to get a meeting with Microsoft. And I was flying to New York on the promise of meeting with someone, which that didn't even happen, just to try to get any angle that I could. And finally got a meeting just through pure persistence and resilience, and made the pitch about why we should be entered into this program that Microsoft had kind of closed off and got us into that program. And we didn't know a lot about their technologies. The team was very skeptical, but we got in there and then we just, took off. And then that part of the business became our most profitable, our largest part of the business. Now the company's still running, even though I left. I sold the company. It's like 90% of the revenue. And if I wouldn't have just stubbornly nonstop work to get in this Microsoft program, the company would have gone under, I'm sure, or certainly wouldn't have been what it became. So sometimes when these things, you know, doors close, the window opens, kind of thing. That's the way I looked at it, and it's scary.
Exactly.
Well, you just got to do it, right? It's sometimes it's almost about survival, and it wound up being the greatest thing for us. And at the time, it did not feel like a great thing, that these companies were kind of going away. It was not a good feeling at all. But here's this new company, and then we just took off with them, and we got off to an early start, and that's why companies wanted to buy us. They wanted to get into the Microsoft space, and we were the leaders. So, anyways, but yeah, it's those things, and you can't control it. So all you can control is what you do about it.
Exactly. You cannot control what happens outside of you, but you can control what happens inside of you. And I love the way you structured it really beautifully. When one door closes, it's the opportunity for another door to open. The truth is, as human beings, it never makes sense to us in real time. It
Yeah.
never makes sense to us in real time. But down the line, after some months or years, and then you look back and you're grateful because for myself, I'm always grateful that certain opportunities that I really wanted very, very badly did not come my way
Yeah.
because I ended up, harnessing bigger and better opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone has that, right? You can look back at your life, whether it be a relationship, whatever, be whatever, and everyone has those moments in their life where they can look back and say, man, at the time I was pissed I didn't get that, but it wound up being the best thing for you. And it
Hmm.
doesn't, like you said, it doesn't feel great at the time, but
Yeah.
draw on those past experiences because yeah,
Hmm.
you never know. You just never know.
You never know. You talked about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And of course, like I told you, very early in life, I was exposed to reading books on psychology and philosophy. That is, one of my favorite psychology models because it really much, articulates human desires
Hmm.
very to a high level of precision and accuracy. And when I look at that triangle, I think you're actually right up there trying to get that self-actualization. So when I look at you, retired, and of course now you're exploring publishing and even film production. So how important is it for entrepreneurs to pursue creativity and passion
Yeah,
projects
I,
outside of business?
I think it's great. I mean, for me, I started the company because I wanted to be able to control my future, a little bit of a control
Mm,
freak. And so I put myself in that position. So I was, 45 years old and here I am retired and I had all these dreams and ambitions as a kid, right? And I think a lot of it's like going back to what you wanted to do as a kid. I always wanted to write a book. I always wanted to make a comedy movie. I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted to do when I was older. And I'm like, I'm going to go do those things. Like now I worked really hard. I took some risks, had this built a lot of value for our customers. So that turned into value for me. And now I'm going to go do these things. And it is that Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? It's like, I felt like I could write a really good book and the market right now is telling me that that's what I did. And I felt like I could really make a funny movie and I'm still working on it, but I feel like that's what the market will think. And it's that self-actualization, right? Like I felt like I could run a successful business. I did, right? So it's like I felt these things, I've actualized them. And when you have success in one thing, it builds in others, right? Like a lot of people
exactly.
were like, a lot of people were like, oh man, what if you write this book and it bombs? You're going to be so embarrassed. I'm like, people said that to me. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to bomb because I know I read a lot of business books, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with this movie. Like, man, what if it sucks? I'm like, I'm not worried about
If it
it. I'm
sucks,
not worried about it.
I'll do a sequel.
Yeah. I love that. That's funny. Yeah.
That's what I always tell people, right?
Well, it's like,
If it
you can't
fails, I
control
just
it,
found
right?
another way in which things don't work. I will keep
Yeah.
going. You can't stop
Yeah, and
me.
it's all right. A lot of these things I'm doing for myself. Like the book I wrote for myself. Like I wrote it for the kid that was 32 years old going through that, right? Like what was helpful for me. And the same thing with this movie. I'm like, I'm making it for myself. It's a passion project. So I think it's important for entrepreneurs to scratch those creative itches because in general, I have found, I know hundreds of entrepreneurs, they're all very pretty creative, right? You get in,
Mm,
be running a business is a very creative endeavor. And so I have
absolutely.
found that most of them have a lot of interests outside of,
Hmm.
just being running a business, right? And
Hmm.
being an entrepreneur is a very creative process. Like, you're creating products, literally. You're bringing on people. You're creating. So I think naturally, for any entrepreneur to have those other interests is important. I don't think I probably need to even say it that much, because I bet they're doing it already. Like, I'm sure you have creative interests that you do. I mean, look at your backwards setup.
Absolutely.
It's all cool.
Absolutely. You need to see more episodes of my podcast, right? I've had creatives on the podcast. I've had even musicians on the podcast. Uh,
Yeah,
Maybe I did not tell you. Growing up, because I was a skinny kid, they used to want to bully me. So I got into martial arts. So I started with taekwondo, karate, moved to mixed martial arts. So I've had world champions in boxing, world champions in MMA, guys in the UFC,
sure.
Bellator, Cage Warriors. They've all been on this podcast, and I love mixed martial arts. Anybody that knows me closely knows three letters are very dear to my heart. That's the UFC. And
Yeah,
whenever they come to London, I'm there. I was there at the Auto Arena earlier this year, and um, that's something creative, outside of building a company that I'm very passionate about.
yeah,
And even the way I introduce, people on the podcast is the Bruce Buffer introduction. I infused it into,
yeah.
the podcast where we make money from.
Put your hands like this too. I was like, "Are we getting into a fight? This is great." I felt like I was going to a boxing ring. Like, literally, that's what I thought of when you with the intro. I mean,
Mhm.
actually, I said the Bulls thing as well, but when I listen to some of your other episodes, I'm like, man, it's like a ding, ding, ding. Let's go here.
And of course, think about it. Life is actually a fight when you think about it.
Oh,
Of
100%.
course, we
Oh, yeah.
have lots of battles,
That's all it is. Yeah. Yeah. No, I've got
lots
another
of
idea.
battles,
I've got
lots of
another idea
battles.
for a book that's just gonna be called Fight, and that's what it's just about. Life is gonna fight you every day. You're gonna get
Let us collaborate on that one. And of course, that's why I love working with athletes. They understand the concept of teamwork makes the dream work.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
if you're doing a team sport or an individual sport, you know what it means to have that discipline, drive, consistency. A lot of people tell me, and even people that don't really know me because they've seen my body of work, over time, they said, "How do you manage to be consistent?" Even when I was in the corporate world, still putting on my body of work, like it's a function of commitment, right? And
Yeah.
finding ways to be efficient. And when you're committed to something, it's really crazy how much you can achieve over time. It's just like compound interest. You say, I am going to save $1 or £1 a day for the next, 365 days. You'll be amazed with, what you're able to put together. But people don't have that discipline to be able to stay committed. And, I say, yeah, I know I'm an individual with a high IQ, but that's not what really sets me apart. Sets me apart is that ability to stay disciplined and consistent and
Yeah.
just chip the block every day.
Yeah, it's
I
the only
have
way to do it.
over 130 episodes. Like how? How did I come about?
Yeah, discipline equals success, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you've gotta be disciplined, you gotta stay committed, you have to have a process. That's just a essential building block of anything being successful.
But the funny thing, right? Yeah, I'm going to talk about this. Yeah, there's a book in the work, right? Um, I'm about to publish a book, and that book is on helping podcasters, to succeed in this podcasting journey. And I have a podcasting management service under my company, and I had six podcasts under management, six, but now we have five. The five of them, you're on the Kingdoms podcast, that's the highest ranked, global top 2.5%. We have Diary of a CFO, global 5%, top 5%. We have Bricks and Banks by Stephanie, that is global top 5%. We have The Curious Tycoon, global top 10%. And of course, we have Business 101, global top 10%. But we have one that I'm not going to mention the name. I think everybody deserves, their dignity to be protected. And this was the only person who struggled with consistency, right?
Right.
And also, this person, I don't like the fact that they weren't faithful about, their financial commitment to the program, right?
Hmm.
And they thought they could be smart about it and, withdraw. Not like I was just laughing behind because you're not investing in me, you're investing in yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's shortchanged. That's just stupid. But yeah,
And they are the only ones that are left behind right now.
yeah.
I
Well,
feel sad for them. I feel sad for them. Like when you have a SaaS tool and somebody is trying to use that SaaS tool, right, without paying the subscription, like
right. Yeah,
how?
yeah, yeah. It's not gonna work. Yeah. Well, life will teach them plenty of painful lessons.
I feel bad. I feel bad for them. You can lead a horse to the stream, but you cannot force it to drink. That's one lesson I'm learning in this world of entrepreneurship. But like I said previously, it's hard to teach people attitude,
Yeah, I was just gonna say
right?
it brings us back to earlier about like you can't teach them; they either have it or don't have it. And like that's what we used to say: if we have to manage you, we're gonna manage you out of the organization. Like you shouldn't be here. Like you know, you should be a leader. You should have those things. You should have those attributes. So that's part of it. Is but it's a lesson learned for you too. Like that's not everyone's gonna be above board with how they act and how they and that's what I found in management and leadership is once you identify those people, get them out. Like we would just, sorry, you're not a good fit. We used to say, positive attitude, positive results. You'll love it being here. Positive attitude, not great results. Hey, we'll work with you. We'll help you figure it out. Negative attitude, negative results, you're gone. And that's going to be the
Cut off.
yeah, gone. You're not here. You don't even you're not gonna last. You're gonna be exposed. So like that last person you mentioned, that's a negative attitude, negative results, right? So get out of here. Just goodbye. Yeah.
Wow, lots of lessons, been learned here, and of course, I think that's a good way to segue to the last question I have for you, and that's about your legacy and impact. So, looking back, and of course, looking forward, what do you hope your entrepreneurial journey inspires in the next generation of founders?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wrote the book. A is just to inspire people to be an entrepreneur. That's what I was really hoping to do because I know what a great life it's given me. And, it's something I teach my kids about, being an entrepreneur and I think in this age of AI where a lot of things are going to there are going to be job loss and there'll be job created because of AI too. I'm not saying that, but think I don't know what profession I would tell my kids to go learn to be in college right now that isn't going to just get totally disrupted by AI, but you're always going to need entrepreneurs. So if I could inspire one person to be an entrepreneur that was kind of on the fence, that'd have been worth it for the book for me. And I've actually received a couple emails saying just that. So that's it. I think I would just, it's inspiring people to be entrepreneurs. And then if there's anything they can learn from my lessons and my trials and errors and tribulations, I would be thrilled with that.
I think that is actually well said. Something just popped on my mind. I want to make you make a commitment on the be recorded, right? So your
Yeah,
book, I really need a copy of that book. I have a couple of books that
I'll
were
send you a
written
copy.
by former guests. So we have this, this is
I'll
Professor
send you. Here
Bruno.
it is,
This is
buddy. There it is mine. Yeah.
don't just want a copy of the book. I want an autographed copy of the
Yeah. No
book.
worries. I will send you one.
just like what Professor Bruno did, right? I think I need to
Yeah.
start collecting these autographs,
There you
right?
go. I accept.
If we
I
say what's
accept
up.
your challenge.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So you know what time it is the quick fire round. Let's do it fun, fast, and of course insightful. Just give me the quickest answer
Sure.
that you can provide to this question. Are you ready to rumble?
Yes.
Let's go. Okay. So, what is one book that you think changed your life?
Yeah. I know I mentioned How to Win Friends, Influence People. That one day, but I already said that. So, and I know another common entrepreneur one is Rich Dad Poor Dad. But when I read that book,
Robert
I was pretty,
Kiyosaki.
yeah, I was young and it just like changed my mind. Like I was thirsty for something. I was searching for something. I didn't know what that was. And I read that book and I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm talking about. It seemed like a major life hack to me. I definitely assimilated with that book. I don't know, that's not the right word I'm looking for, whatever. I saw myself in that book, and that my dad was kind of like my real dad growing up was kind of like the poor dad in that book. He's get a good education, etc. I don't mean poor, like, whatever. That was what his opinion was. And then I had a buddy, one of my best friends' dad was like an entrepreneur. He was kind of like the rich dad. So there was two very influential men in my young life. And so that kind of made sense to me. Anyways, that book changed my life. I went on a reading spree. I learned about finance. I learned about entrepreneurship. Real estate, which I still do to this day as well. That book changed my life.
Mm. Do you want to hear a fun fact?
Yes.
Robert Kiyosaki shares the same birthday with me. So
Right.
Robert Kiyosaki is April 8th, 1947, and of course I'm April 8th, 1992. So
That's cool.
uh,
Wow.
know that you are you're talking to the rich dad.
Yeah, I love that. Well, maybe everyone born on April 8th is an entrepreneur. Like that's yeah.
Oh, when is
Inspiration
your birthday?
on November
Huh?
17th.
November 7th. Okay, you're
17th.
close to my
17th. Yeah.
17. Oh, you're Scorpio. You're Scorpio.
Yes, Scorpio. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom is a Scorpio. we
Yeah.
don't see eye to eye on everything.
We agree about entrepreneurship. That's all we need to worry about. Yeah,
I,
we're
I- I'm
intense.
telling you, like I feel like my mom feels like I'm this troublemaker personality, but the troublemaker is always
Yeah.
making things happen. But I don't know. That is what I feel. But she told me that no, that's not what I think about you. But on my mind, that's what I think you think.
Yeah, it's so funny. I like that.
But
I
think
was
about
also a
it, right? Like,
troublemaker.
what did you say?
I said I'm also a troublemaker, so all good there.
I'm telling you, I feel like if you are going to be great at entrepreneurship, you have to be a disruptor and you have to be a troublemaker of some sorts. That
Yeah,
like
I agree.
check,
Yep, go
the
against
list
the
is
grain.
long. Go check them out. Like you must always be a disruptor, and always like to say, closed mouths don't get fed.
Yep, right.
Yeah, so we always have to stand our ground and be assertive. And sometimes being assertive leads to being borderline aggressive. And aggression is not a bad thing entirely, but I think people get uncomfortable with people being aggressive because if you're ambitious, you have to be aggressive, to chase those things that are difficult to achieve. Well, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's just about pointing it in a positive direction.
Absolutely, yeah, and of course, when they see the results, they not come and say, "Oh wow, I'm proud of you." But excuse me.
Yeah.
Well, coffee, meditation, or both.
Meditation.
Oh wow, interesting. That should have been a question. Okay. Biggest misconception about entrepreneurship.
I found it easier to be successful than I thought it would be. I think it's all the other things that go with it, like we talked about today.
Yeah.
I think it's a misconception that it's hard to run a successful business. I do. I think it's about determination and grit, and you got to have some talent too. But I think people, they hear the numbers 5% of businesses fail in the first 5 years or whatever. I think that's a misconception. I think it's people give up or quit. They're not resilient.
hmm Yeah. Determination, the grind, and of course, the execution. So, if you could have dinner with one entrepreneur, you know, in world history, living or dead.
Yeah, this is a good one. There's a couple that rattle in my brain. I'll give you kind of one that is not probably talked about as much. Tim Ferriss, who wrote The 4 Hour Work Week. I was big fan of that book. That book really helped me run the business in the beginning and be more efficient and effective. And I listened to I was like an early listener to his podcast. I just think he's a great teacher. And it would more so to say thank you because I feel like he changed my life. I never met him or anything. I listened to his podcast, but there was an opportunity at one point when he was kind of he wasn't very well known, where you could bid on a dinner you could bid on a charity to go to a dinner, and I tried bidding, and it like they didn't get my bid or something, and I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's I would try to go back in time and do that. But no, I think you guy's a brilliant dude, and I think I would enjoy talking to him. So
Okay, fantastic. Team Ferris, right? Okay, yeah, we work something out. We work something
there you go. Cool.
out.
Make that happen, would you?
Yeah, I'm the go-to guy. I'm the one who makes things happen. That's why I'm
Yeah,
called a troublemaker.
I I love it.
Whoa. Before I let you go, you are pretty much like a big brother, right? To us entrepreneurs. So, what's your last statement of advice, especially when it comes to a growth mindset for starting a business?
Yeah, I would say just look at it as obstacles as opportunities. Um, there's a famous military hero in the United States, Jocko Willemick. I don't know if you know who he is, but he has something that he calls the good mindset, where it's looking at setbacks as opportunities. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I didn't get that job. Good, I can go start a company. Oh, I didn't get financing to start my company. Great, good, or excuse me, good. I will own more equity. I didn't get that deal. Good. I can go get a more high profitable customer. So it's hard to do that, right? It's difficult.
Very hard. Yeah.
Your natural reaction is to not feel that way. But if you do look at that way, and that's what I would try to do is like, okay, how can I look at the good in this? Okay, it's not natural, but what would I do? What would become something good out of it? Like I talked about before, that situation where the two companies we build our services around were like kind of very disrupted. It's like I could have just kept going and rode that out and whatever, but I was like, okay, good. I'll look at this as an opportunity to go partner with Microsoft. And then that took us off to a whole new level. And so, it's difficult, but it's an important mindset to have.
I think I really love that mindset. It reminds me of a book I read growing up. And of course, I'm really grateful that, while I was a teenager, I was exposed to a lot of really good self-help, self-development books. Well, I remember this one, it's by Dr. Willie Jolie. And of course, the title of the book is A Setback is a Setup for a Comeback.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah. I've heard that phrase, obviously, but I've never read that book. That's great.
It's a book everybody should read. It talks about a particular formula, VDAD, and that's a vision, decision, action, and desire. And when I think back, full second moment about how those books have affected my life, influenced my mentality, my attitude as a person, and now looking how it's helping me to impact, younger ones. You know, when you're younger, you feel like you're going to be young forever. But when you see these younger ones look up to you and they tell you, oh, you're giving us gems, really appreciate you. And look at my social media, and somebody was messaging me on X, formerly Twitter, yesterday, and the person said, it's really wonderful connecting with you. I feel so honored, having advice from a person like you. And I'm like, hey, who am I?
You know your impact. Yeah, you never know your impact. And congratulations to you on the podcast, and everything you're doing, man. And putting
Thank you
positive messages
very much,
out.
man.
I like all the scripture you're quoting and stuff. It's good stuff. So keep it going. And
Thank you very much, man. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I'm very, very big on faith. And do you want to know what my best Bible verse is?
yes, I would love to.
Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It keeps it going.
There you go, man. Yeah,
And I was
that's
going to tell you
awesome.
something. The very first book my father ever gifted me was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh, yeah,
Have you ever read
Napoleon
that
Hill.
book?
Yep. Oh, of course, I read that book. Yeah.
What
Yeah,
are
I
your
read
thoughts
that.
on the book?
I love it. I agree with it. It's one of those things you read and you're like, is this true? It seems kind of weird that I could just like think it and grow rich. But that book
Mhm.
I read early on, Millionaire Next Door is kind of similar kind of realm, at least. I read a lot of those self-help books. But yeah, Think and Grow Rich. I mean, I never thought I'd be in my position I'm in now, and I a lot of those books were very influential for me too. And I love that you talk about reading so much because I'm an avid reader myself, and that would be like probably one of the biggest things I would say. And I try to, and it's part of my kids. It's like read, it's like all the like secrets of life are hidden in books, and it's for you
Yeah,
to unlock them. And it's really easy to get caught up in you know TikTok and Instagram and whatever, these kind of quick hit things, but like to have concentrated time and energy. And I think there's something beautiful about the written word, which is why I wanted to write a book myself. Like you can really crystallize what you're trying to say, and that's hard to do even in like in a podcast. Like I'll listen back to this like, oh, I should have said that, or I should have said this, or whatever. But when you're writing, you can actually edit and
yeah.
really
Well
get down to
documented.
the essence, and so you're getting someone's best. So
Mm.
if you're reading all this stuff like that book, like that was his best. And that's the beauty of books, that it doesn't exist otherwise. Movies a little bit. But I don't know. I'm a huge avid reader, and I love that. I could tell that you are too. So that's great.
Thank you very much. And I think there's sort of like a solution to what you were just talking about. And I think that solution is audiobooks and of course the condensed versions. So one brand or one product that I really appreciate is Blinkist. So hi
Yeah.
guys, Blinkist, please tell them it's high time they come sponsor this podcast. So I have a 1 year subscription with them. So for me, I love to get sponsored by brands that I use personally. So
Sure.
I'm the most authentic person walking on the surface of the earth. So I'm an endangered species. So I cannot advertise something that I don't use. I cannot endorse something I don't use.
Sure.
So better help in. Thank you very much, guys. And of course, Blinkist, you're up next. Let's do this. Whoa!
Yeah.
And of course, to Kevin Barnicle, love and of course respect to you. I always say that when a person shares a time with you, they share their life with you. Of course, thank you
Yes.
for sharing your life and your time with
Yeah.
me.
Thank you,
And of
man.
course, I'm very grateful to our audience. Can you see that gorilla behind Kevin? Right. If you do not share and subscribe and comment and show love to this podcast, that gorilla is coming your way. And of course, for me, it's goodbye, Kevin. Any last words, or do you want to give a shout out to anybody before you run away?
No, thanks, man. I really enjoyed talking with you, and yeah, being a guest. So thank you.
Okay, and of course, hopefully we'll see you in the part two, brother. Whoa, like I like to say, guys, always go for something in your life. So very, very important. Conceive, believe, strive to thrive, and of course, achieve. And till I come your way next, love and respect your way. It's goodbye for me.